Hello, I am Dr. Bob. I am going to show you how to install and set up the Yuasa Clamshell Test Jig CS. I will be using the motor drive unit DMLHP. We are starting with the two pieces separated, the clamshell jig and the motor drive unit, as if you had just removed them from their shipping boxes. Place the motor drive unit on the right with the power cord at the rear and the red emergency button toward you. Place the CS jig on the left with its driving shaft coupling facing the motor drive unit. This is the way the units will face when they are joined together. There are only a few tools and machine parts you will be using. First is a T-type hexagon bar wrench. I call it an Allen wrench. It is a 3mm hex wrench. Second is an open end wrench, 8mm on one end and 10mm on the other end. The following items are parts for the motor drive unit. This is the linear output shaft, which is used when the DMLHP is used in the linear reciprocating mode. Only attach the linear output shaft when it is being used. It attaches through a hole in the motor unit. Make sure you never ship the motor unit with the linear output shaft attached. You can damage the motor unit and the shaft. The clamshell is driven by the rotary drive output of the motor unit, so we will not be using the linear output shaft in this video. This is the cover for the rotary reciprocating shaft. This cover should be attached over the rotary shaft on the motor unit for shipping. This is the motor unit AC power cord with a 3-prong to 2-prong adapter for use when needed. And there should be a joint bracket on the motor unit below the rotary shaft for attaching the CS jig to the motor unit. These two pins on the jig will go into holes on the joint bracket. All those parts should be in the motor unit shipping box. The following items are parts for the clamshell jig. These two items are the holding plates. They will go on the jig. One goes on the back. The other goes on the front. The holding plates should be packed separately in the shipping box, not on the jig. These two items are the holding beams, each with 2 thumb screws. I have one mounted on the jig to keep the holding plates horizontal. The holding beams will mount on the jig for some setup steps. They must be removed when the jig is in operation. The holding beams will mount on the holding plates when you want to use the cartridge feature of the clamshell. Instead of installing them on the jig, you will install them on the holding plates on both sides. When you want to remove the sample under test, for microscopic examination for example, you will attach the 2 holding beams to the holding plates with the thumb screws, then you can lift off the cartridge. When finished with the microscopic examination, you place the cartridge back on the jig and remove the holding beams. The holding beams may be holding the jig movement in a fixed position in the shipping box, but as I said, the holding plates should not be on the jig when shipping. These are shims that set the folding radius. And there should be a cover for the entire CS jig. For your safety, the cover should be placed on the jig any time the jig is operating. Indeed, the jig will not operate if the cover is not in place. All those items should be in the clamshell shipping box. In addition, I will be using my own 2.5mm hex wrench to tighten the jig coupling to the motor unit's rotary shaft. The motor unit DMLHP can be used in the linear reciprocating mode or in the rotary reciprocating mode. Converting from one to the other is easier. For the linear reciprocating mode, you install the linear reciprocating shaft through the hole on the front of the motor unit, attaching it internally to the linear guide, and you install the rotary shaft cover over the rotary reciprocating shaft on the left side of the motor unit. And you set the motor unit for linear drive using the touch panel. For the rotary reciprocating mode, you remove the linear reciprocating shaft and you remove the rotary shaft cover. And you set the motor unit for rotary drive using the touch panel. Now we will plug in the motor drive unit and turn on the power switch. Let's take a look at the touch panel on top of the motor drive unit. This is the touch panel. Note also the large red emergency stop switch. Let's press the emergency stop switch. Immediately the motor unit will stop if it is running, and we get a red warning on the touch panel. The touch panel shows that the emergency stop button was pressed. Take care of whatever the issue was when you applied the emergency stop. Then to reset, rotate the emergency stop switch clockwise to release it. Press and hold the reset button on the touch panel. Press the home button. Now we are back where we started. Let's take a closer look at the touch panel and the controls we will use in the setup. The home button, the position button, the speed button, the count button, the start-stop button, and the 0 and minus and plus buttons. You can manually change the motor position with the minus and 0 and plus buttons on the main screen. These are the jog buttons. Touch minus and the mechanism will take a step in the minus SP direction. Hold minus to bring the mechanism to the minus SP position. Touch plus to take a step in the plus SP direction. Hold plus to bring the mechanism to the plus SP position. Touch 0 to take the mechanism in the direction of the middle position of minus SP and plus SP. Hold 0 to bring the mechanism to the middle of minus SP and plus SP. Tap the position button to set the minus SP and plus SP angles when the motor unit is in the rotary reciprocation mode. Minus SP angle and plus SP angle settings will show. If you want to move the mechanism to some specific angle, tap the value for SP, enter your desired angle, then touch SP. The mechanism will move to that angle. Let me set that to 20. Touch SP and the mechanism moves to 20 degrees. Let's set it back to 0 the same way. If the motor unit is in the linear reciprocating mode, you can set the minus SP and plus SP reciprocation distances. Tapping the Settings button will rotate the touch panel screen between the Settings window, the Testing window, and the Remote Control window. The Settings window allows us to change the jog speed between high and low. We can set the stop position. Minus sets the stop position to be minus SP. Plus sets the stop position to be plus SP. And 0 sets the stop position to be midway between minus SP and plus SP. We can set the signal error to be an A contact or a B contact. It depends on whether an error is signaled by turning on a signal or turning off a signal. The CS should be set for B contact. Tapping the Settings button again brings up the Testing Condition window. Here we can set the mode to rotary or linear. You must enter a password to change this. The default password is 0000. You can change the maximum allowed and minimum allowed settings. It also requires you to enter the password. Note that they are currently minus 270 degrees and plus 270 degrees. Those are the maximum values for the HP motor drive unit. And the speed maximum is set for 90 reciprocations per minute. This is the maximum value for the HP motor drive unit. And you can change the password. Tapping the Settings button again brings up the Remote window. Here you can change the IP address if you are controlling the motor unit with a computer. Tap the Home button to return to the main screen. Let's look at the rotary shaft. I have placed a piece of painter's tape on the shaft pointing up when the shaft is at 0 degrees. I will hold the minus button which will move the mechanism to the minus position, minus 270 degrees. Now I will hold the plus button which will go to the plus SP position, which is plus 270 degrees. Now I will hold the 0 button which will go to the mid position of minus SP and plus SP, which is 0 degrees. Before we attach the CS jig to the HP motor drive unit, we need to set our values for the clamshell. This is a very important step. The CS has a limited range compared to what the HP can do. If you do not set the values first, you could damage the equipment. You should set the limits for the jig you will be using. Touch Settings 2 times to reach the Testing Conditions window. The maximum allowed angles for the clamshell are 0 degrees and 90 degrees. The maximum allowed reciprocation speed is 30. Later my instructions will tell you to make adjustments to minus SP and plus SP to cause the clamshell to be exactly horizontal at minus SP and exactly vertical at plus SP if they are not already horizontal and vertical. If you set limits at 0 degrees and plus 90 degrees, you will not have any latitude for adjustments if needed. Perhaps it is best to set the limits to -1 degree and plus 91 degrees. Understand, though, that the holding plates can touch if the vertical angle exceeds 90 degrees, so make your adjustments carefully. Make motor movements carefully until you are sure everything is set properly. Touch Enable, then enter the default password of 0000, then touch Entry Limit. Change -270 to be -1. Touch -270, then touch minus and 1, and then press Enter. Change +270 to be +91. Touch 270 and touch 9 and 1 and Enter. Change 90 reciprocations per minute to be 30. Touch 90 and touch 3 and 0 and Enter. Now we need to change the values for -SP and +SP to set them for the clamshell. The allowable bending angle is 0 to 180 degrees. Note that 180 degree bending is when the jig moves to plus 90 degrees because both holding plates rotate 90 degrees. Therefore the bending angle will be 180 degrees. For my sample, I want to start with a flat and bend it 180 degrees. The -SP position will be when the holding plates are horizontal, which is 0 degrees. Tap on the Position button. Note that the values of -SP and +SP are the same as the limits we just set. Tap on the current value of -SP and touch 0 and Enter. My +SP position will be 90 degrees. Tap on the current value of +SP and touch 9 and 0 and Enter. Your bending angles might be different from mine, but your limits will remain 0 degrees and plus 90 degrees. Your +SP and -SP would be different from mine. Tap Speed to set the reciprocations per minute. The clamshell range for reciprocation rate is 5 reciprocations per minute to 30 reciprocations per minute. Tap the number presently showing and set the new number. Let's choose 20 reciprocations per minute. Tap 2 and 0 and Enter. Tap the Count button and you will be able to reset the number of reciprocations, and you will be able to set the target number of reciprocations. To reset the count, hold Reset for about 3 seconds. The count shows 0. To set the target number, touch the number for target. A number pad appears. Let's set the target to 12. Press 1 and 2 and Enter. Press the Home button to go back to the main screen. During testing, I want the stop position to be when the sample is flat, which is the -SP position. Touch the Settings button, then touch minus for the stop position. Touch the Home button to return to the main screen. To run a test, press Start Stop. You will be given a confirmation button to actually start. Tap the green Start button. Now the machine is running. The speed shown on the touch panel has gone from 0 to 20. Maybe you want to examine the sample during the test. Let's stop the machine. Now you can remove the sample using the cartridge. After finishing the examination, you would place the cartridge with the sample back on the jig. On the touch panel, press Start Stop. Confirm with the green Start button. Now the test resumes where it was when we stopped to examine the sample. The count is updating. The machine will stop when it reaches the target number. The position shown on the touch panel is changing. Touch Stop. We are ready to begin installing the CS jig onto the DM-LHP motor unit. Make sure the joint bracket is attached to the motor unit below the reciprocating shaft. Mount the holding beams on the jig, which will make the mounting plates horizontal. Attach the holding beams to the jig, not to the holding plates. You are doing this to make sure the holding plates are horizontal. At this point, we would set the target position of the motor drive to -SP equals 0 degrees and +SP equals +90 degrees, but we have already done that. Let's locate the driving unit to 0 degrees. Hold the -jog button until it reaches the end, which will be 0 degrees. I have done that already. You can place the holding plates on the jig. They should be horizontal. Use the 2.5 mm Allen wrench to make sure the jig's coupling is loose. Push the jig's coupling over the motor unit's rotary shaft. Make sure the pins on the jig go into the holes on the joint bracket on the motor unit, and that the jig is square with the motor unit and that the pins are completely inside the holes. Tighten the coupling on the driving shaft with a 2.5 mm Allen wrench. Tighten to 1.5 Newton meters, that's about 1.1 foot-pounds. Do not over-tighten the screw. Remove the holding beams from the CS jig. Locate the driving unit to plus 90 degrees by holding the plus jog button to confirm that the holding plates are parallel. If they are not parallel, hold the minus jog button to go back to 0 degrees and make sure the holding plates are horizontal. Readjust the coupling if they are not horizontal. If you need to readjust the coupling, again hold the plus jog button to confirm that the holding plates are parallel at plus 90 degrees. If they are not, change the target position plus SP. Remember my warning earlier that the holding plates can touch if the jig moves them beyond vertical. Locate the driving unit to 0 degrees by holding the minus jog button to confirm the holding plates are horizontal. If they are not horizontal, change the target position minus SP. Operate the machine slowly with the jog buttons to confirm the holding plates move smoothly and reach 0 degrees with the holding plates horizontal and 90 degrees with the holding plates vertical. The CS jig is now ready to set the folding radius for samples. Attach the holding beams to the jig, not to the holding plates. Then loosen the thumb screws so that the holding beams move freely. Loosen the shim screws to remove the shims already in place. Then insert shims according to the test condition folding radius. The shims should total twice the desired folding radius. Place the same thickness of shims in each end. The folding radius should not be less than 0.5 millimeters or 0.02 inches. The maximum folding radius is 5 millimeters or 0.2 inches. I will bend my sample with a radius of 2.5 millimeters, so I select 5 millimeters for the shim in each side. Tighten the shim screws to 3 Newton meters, about 2.2 foot-pounds. Do not over-tighten the screws. Remove the holding beams. Locate the driving unit to plus 90 degrees by holding the plus jog button to confirm the distance between the holding plates is 2 times the folding radius. If the distance is not 2 times the folding radius, adjust the shims and repeat the measurement. Locate the driving unit to 0 degrees by holding the minus jog button. The holding plates should be parallel. If this is not correct, start over, making sure the coupling is adjusted so the holding plates are horizontal at 0 degrees and vertical at 90 degrees. Now you can attach your sample to the holding plates. Use an adhesive to hold the sample. Clean the holding plates first if a previous adhesive is still on the holding plates. Make sure the sample is not so thick that it touches itself when folding. This might damage the cartridge. A large force is not necessary to hold the sample because it will not be subjected to tension. The adhesive should be placed a distance of 1/2 of pi r minus r from the edge of the holding plate. For example, a 2.5 millimeter bending radius would mean a space of 1.5 millimeters. The sample will be bent at the center point of the holding plates. I have selected my test sample. I have attached it to the holding plates. I am using a bend radius of 2.5 millimeters, so I have used shims that total 5 millimeters. I will run the test at a speed of 20 reciprocations per minute. I have set the count to 0. I have set the target to 12. I have placed the safety cover on the jig. I am ready to run my test. The test is running. And now my test is complete. Remove the safety cover, and then you can examine the sample by attaching the holding beams to the holding plates and lifting the sample off the jig. After examination, you can place the sample back on the jig and do more testing. If you do more testing, remember to remove the holding beams. This concludes the Yuasa clamshell setup video.